Ireland's current political framework goes back to 1937 with the introduction of Bunreacht na hÉireann by Fianna Fáil. It's a constitution cast and moulded the Westminster model, with a few customs and institutions borrowed from other countries. It shares many similarities with the Free State Constitution, but the main difference being that it declares Ireland's right to independence from any foreign power, although the claim to independence of the northern 6 counties has since been removed. The main institutions of the state are the Dáil, the Seanad, the Uachtaráin and the courts, which haven't significantly changed since their foundation. Although one significant change in Ireland's constitutional structure has been the gradual incorporation of EU institutions into Ireland, which has seen a general trend of the EU playing a larger role in Irish affairs. When it comes to any political system, the important questions to be answered are who is picked to run the state and how are laws changed. These two branches of the state are known as the executive and the legislature. There is also a third branch of the state known as the judiciary, which is the Irish court system that interprets the constitution and the laws of the country and settles legal disputes. All political systems, no matter how primitive, have these 3 institutions. The executive, more commonly referred to as the government, is led by the Taoiseach and their deputy, the Taoiseach, and is composed of the various ministers who run the different government departments. Each minister is the head of their government department, which allows them to directly implement change in a certain branch of the state. Employees of government departments are known as civil servants. Civil servants are a politically neutral body that remains in employment even after a change of government. They provide continuity and expertise within the government structure and contribute to the day-to-day running of the different government departments. Government departments have changed in number and in content throughout the state's existence, but the main core of departments like the Department of Defence, Foreign Affairs, Finance and Justice go all the way back to the first revolutionary Dáil of 1919. The government is accountable to the Dáil and must maintain approval from a majority of the TDs in the Dáil for the government to continue. If a majority of TDs don't approve the current government, they can pass the motion of no confidence that will bring down the government, which either triggers a new general election or allows the Dáil to vote in a new government. In order to attain this majority of approval from the Dáil, the government is made up of party leaders whose combined party members form a majority in the Dáil. The party whip makes sure that this majority is maintained by ensuring that members turn up for votes and vote for the government. If the government maintains its approval of a majority of the Dáil, it can stay in power for up to 5 years. The ability to change laws rests in the Oireachtas, which is composed of the Dáil, the Seanad and the Uachtaráin. The Uachtaráin, known in English as the President, is the Irish head of state and acts primarily in a ceremonial role. The Seanad can only delay a law being passed and has no powers to block the passing of a law, which means that the Dáil is really the only important element in the law-making process. The government is primarily made up of members from the Dáil, but it is also possible for a minister to come from the Seanad. The Dáil is elected from the different constituencies in Ireland, with 3 to 5 seats being available per constituency. The Dáil is elected by the people in a voting system known as single transferable vote. Voters rank candidates in order of their preference, so their vote gets transferred to their next choice if their first preference gets disqualified. When all the first preference votes are counted, the candidate with the lowest number of votes has his votes transferred to the other candidates, based on what the voter's next choice was. This process repeats itself until all the candidates are elected. The presidential election, which occurs every 7 years, works the same as the general election, but the Seanad in contrast has a completely different system. The Seanad is the upper house of the Oireachtas, and its members are elected shortly after a new Dáil is formed. There are 60 Seanadóirí in total. 11 are appointed by the Taoiseach, 6 are elected from graduates of certain universities, and 43 are elected by politicians from vocational panels. Of the 6 Seanadóirí elected by universities, 3 come from Trinity College and 3 come from Ireland's other main universities and any colleges linked with them, with the exception of UL. The main 43 elected are elected from 5 vocational panels that broadly represent 5 sections of Irish society. The 5 vocational panels are further divided into 2 sub-panels, the Oireachtas sub-panel and the nominating bodies sub-panel. These sub-panels nominate candidates of experience and speciality in one of the 5 fields. The Oireachtas sub-panel nominations come from TDs and outgoing Seanadóirí, and the nominating bodies sub-panel comes from organisations that represent the interests of one of the vocational panels. Once candidates have been nominated, all politicians in Ireland, from county city councillors to TDs and outgoing Seanadóirí, vote in an election. Once elected, the Seanad plays an advisory role to the Dáil. The Seanad can be seen as an upper house made up of a specialised group of individuals with diverse interests that can be a source of independent critique of government legislation, but have its powers curtailed enough so it isn't strong enough to be able to properly challenge the government. In order to change or repeal a law, it must go through a few stages of deliberation and possible amendment for it to pass. A law first starts out as a bill which can either be introduced in the Dáil or the Seanad. If a TD introduces a bill, it is debated in the Dáil. If the Dáil passes the bill, it is then debated in the Seanad. If a Seanadóri introduces a bill, it starts off in the Seanad and then moves to the Dáil. A bill passes through 5 stages in each house. It is first introduced, where the general direction and ideas of the bill are outlined. Then if it passes on to the second stage, a debate occurs in the House about its general merits, and the House votes on whether it should go on to the committee stage. In the committee stage, a specialised committee is formed, with the relevant TDs and ministers present, or sometimes with members of the public who have an expertise in the topic being discussed. During this stage, each section of the bill is scrutinised and amendments are suggested. The bill is then brought back to the Dáil, where further discussion occurs. In the final stage, the House votes on the bill, and if it passes, it moves on to the other House, where the whole process of deliberation repeats itself. A bill doesn't need approval from the Seanad for it to pass, so the Dáil can simply just ignore any amendments proposed by the Seanad. Once the bill has gone through both the Dáil and the Seanad, it is presented to the Uachtaráin, where it is signed and becomes law. The Uachtaráin has no veto power, but they do have the power to refer the bill to the Supreme Court to test its constitutionality. If the bill is deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, the Dáil must amend the unconstitutional section of the bill. Even if a bill is signed into law, the courts can later render it unconstitutional and strike it down. Bills introduced by a government minister are near guaranteed to pass, since they have control over a majority of the Dáil. In comparison, only a small fraction of bills introduced by ordinary TDs or Seanadóri, known as private members' bills, are actually enacted. Of the laws enacted, only a small portion originate from outside the government, and these private members' bills generally always have government support and approval. Ireland's political system is structured in a way that the government not only directly controls the state's institutions, but also to a large extent indirectly controls the legislative process. The government's right to appoint judges also makes sure the courts don't play an adversarial role. This places the government at the centre of Ireland's political structure, with party member TDs, the party organisation, the national broadcaster and the other state institutions to a large extent playing a supporting role.